Winning Blueprint presents.
Draft Zone.
Welcome to the Draft Zone. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. This is the 2013 NFL Draft Wrap-Up. What we aim to do with this program is break down the 2013 NFL Draft of every single team in the National Football League. Today we'll be talking about the Houston Texans and what they were able to accomplish with their 9 picks in the 2013 NFL Draft. We'll look to break down every single pick made by the Houston Texans, give them a grade using our baseball grading scale, as we always do here in the lab room and in the draft zone. Single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the draft wrap-up series, as we can't tell if these players will pan out or not, and we can't tell if the Texans reached on a player or not. Every team in the National Football League has a different grade on every single player in this draft. Just like your DNA, no two players are the same. And so we can't tell if a team reached or not. And so there are no strikeouts in this segment this time around. So we'll look at the Houston Texans draft and grade it out. And look, each and every single pick will be given a grade, but it won't just be the player in question that will receive the grade. It'll be the pick itself, how it was made, where it was made, how this player might impact the Texans in the 2013 season and moving forward. So a lot of different factors go into giving this grade for the Texans player selected in this draft for the pick. And then as we get these grades, we'll average them up together, get an aggregate score for the Houston Texans draft overall, and then we'll move on. So without any further ado, I've got my draft board behind me. And of course, always present, handy dandy pointer. Let's get to the board and get to work on this Houston Texans draft. And when looking at the Texans and their needs, the first thing that jumps off the page at me is wide receiver. We've known for years that Andre Johnson has needed help. And we know Dre is a man of few words. But right before the draft, he made it a point of emphasis to come out and say, hey, I would love to have a receiver opposite of me. I would love for the Texans to go out and get a guy that can help me basically take this team to the next level. And look, Dre's one of those guys, again, a few words. When he speaks, you listen. It's usually something very profound, and in this case, he mixed no words. Hey, I would love some help at receiver, which is what we've been saying the Texans needed to do for a long time now. At least the last 5 years, easy. Kevin Walter was nice, but he was never, ever a great compliment to Andre Johnson. And so receiver was definitely a need. Offensive line, ever since Eric Winston has departed at the right tackle position, you've had an open door policy over there at the right tackle position. It'd be nice to really get a right tackle to cement that side of the field, because I think that you could use a guy to really solidify your offensive line. Looking at linebacker, no more Connor Barwin. I thought that was a guy that maybe had a disappointing 2012 season, but you still could have had back. But the kind of money the Eagles threw at him, I didn't blame you for not even attempting to re-sign that guy. You could use some more linebacker depth. Last year, you were decimated by injuries at the linebacker position, meaning you need more depth at the linebacker position in case something like that were to occur. Again, defensive line, I've talked about this ad nauseum. I've been so disappointed with the Texans having Sean Cody at the nose tackle position for the last 2 or 3 seasons. It was a disgrace. He's not big enough. At 297 or 305 pounds, he's not big enough to man up the middle of a 3-4 defense. You've been getting away with fraud at the defensive tackle position. You need defensive linemen, definitely at the nose. It wouldn't hurt to add some more depth along the defensive line as well. But to me, the big issue there is nose tackle. And safety, as we all know, Glover Quinn left in free agency. You could use some safeties. You got Ed Reed out in free agency, but Ed Reed is almost like a Band-Aid here. He's not the long-term solution. He's a guy that is here to help you win now. You'll probably get 2 good seasons out of Ed Reed, and then you have to start replacing him. I think in this draft, it'd be nice to get a guy that can learn from Ed Reed. Get in the Ed Reed mentoring program. And so when Ed Reed starts to show his age, you can kind of start waning him out and filtering in that new guy that's ready to take his spot in the defense. So that's the needs for the Houston Texans going into this draft. Let's look at the draft board round, pick, players, position, school. So let's get to this draft board and break down what the Texans were able to accomplish here. First round, 27th overall selection, wide receiver out of Clemson, DeAndre Hopkins. Absolutely love this pick. Love it. Because, look, Dre asked for this. Everyone else expected this. But, look, sometimes Rick Smith goes in a different direction. Everyone thinks he's going to go right. He makes a sharp left turn. So, wasn't sure if Rick Smith got the message or not. I didn't know. Maybe he missed the memo. Apparently, he got the memo loud and clear. First selection in the draft for the Texans, DeAndre Hopkins, who I think is going to be a fabulous complement to Andre Johnson. And let's not forget, even though Dre had one of his best seasons of his career in 2012, he's no spring chicken. We're talking about a guy that's probably been in the league 11 or 10 years. So you got to have a guy that's ready to step in and be the guy once Dre isn't able to do it. And I think DeAndre Hopkins has the ability to do that. He's 6'1", he's 215, he's 220, but he plays like a guy with a 6'3" frame. He's just extremely long and physical. And I'm going to tell you what, I fell in love with DeAndre Hopkins in the Chick-fil-A Bowl, all right? I watched this game. I was really keeping an eye on Taj Boyd because I didn't know if he was going to come out or not in the draft. And so I wanted to see what Taj Boyd was doing, see how he was progressing. And at the end of the game, all Taj Boyd did was throw the ball up to DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, literally, that last possession when Clemson needed it, when they needed to go down the field and score to win the game. That's all he did. He didn't look in another direction that entire drive. He just snapped the ball, looked over in the direction of DeAndre Hopkins, and then just threw the football up. And guess what? DeAndre Hopkins went up and got the football. It's one thing to dominate a football game. It's another thing to dominate when the other team knows you're getting the football. And that's exactly what DeAndre Hopkins did. It didn't matter if the pass was too high, too far to the left, too far to the right, too low. He went down and got it. He went up and got it. He made every single play conceivable on that last drive. And I said, that, my friends, is a football player. That, my friends, is a future star in the National Football League. So for him to have to come in and not have to be the number one guy, just be a great compliment to Dre, what more can you ask for? I think you got a great receiver in the making. And this was a draft that was heavy on receiver. So I think you got one of the better ones in this draft. There were plenty of them, but not many bring the skill set that DeAndre Hopkins brings to the table. With his frame, again, he's 6'1", but he looks more like 6'2", plays more like he's 6'3". The body control, the hands, and he's deceptively fast. He's more quicker than fast, but at a 4.5 40, he's not a guy that's going to blaze you. But if you sleep on him, he'll run by you. And he can go up and make plays on the jump ball. So you get the complete package here. I love the selection. I think it's an absolute jack in the first round for the Houston Texans. First round, 27th overall selection, wide receiver out of Clemson, DeAndre Hopkins, is an absolute home run. You can put it on the board, Texans. It's a home run in the first round. wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins. So we move on to the second round. 57th overall selection, safety out of South Carolina, DJ Swearinger. And this is what I was referring to when I said you needed a guy to come in and get in the Ed Reed mentoring program. Here he is. Perfect selection for it. DJ Swearinger. Now, when I think of DJ Swearinger, I think of boom! Just sheer physicality. Probably the most intimidating player in this draft. Because there are many times when this guy has absolutely no desire to go after the football. He just wants to hit somebody. And sometimes I have an issue with that. But when he does it, I don't. Because I know he's going to make someone pay. And look, I want you looking for the football because I'd much rather have the football than a huge hit. But sometimes you just got to let guys know it's not okay to come across the middle of the football field. Sometimes you just got to let them know. And in this day and age in the National Football League, it's hard for you to send that message across to opposing receivers because of the way the league has been legislated. But DJ Swearinger is one of those guys that's going to come up and absolutely obliterate you. Simply put, he's looking to separate man from football. And he's a human missile while doing so. So I love the pick just from the physical standpoint, the physical nature of it. Here's a guy that's going to hit you very, very hard. But that's not where his game stops. He's not limited to just hitting people, okay? He's not like Donovan Darius or anything like that. He's not a guy that just can hit you and he's a one-trick pony. He can also play in the back half of the defense. Now, is he a single high safety? No. I wouldn't advise you to do that. At 5'10", running a 4.6 40, I would not tell you to put DJ Swearinger in the back half of your defense and ask him to play single high safety and have to cover all of that space. Because A, he's not fast enough, and B, he's 5'10", okay? 5'10", 5'11". So you get a 6'2 receiver with hops, it's going to be hard for him to come down with the football. But you give him a half of the field in a two-deep look and ask him to cover one half of the field, he'll more than adequately do that job and do it well. He's a competitor. He fights for the football. Very strong hands. So if he goes up and he gets his hands on the football, I don't care if you're 6'3 or you're 6'5. If he's fighting with you for the football, he's not going to allow you to come away with that football cleanly. If you make a catch on him and he gets his hands on it, then you, my friends, have a very strong set of hands because this guy is going to fight you tooth and nail for the football. And I love his aggressive and competitive nature. When going for the football, he makes catches that are tough. So if you throw it down in the ground, he's going to dig it up and pick it off. If you throw it high outside of his frame, he's going to do everything in his power to climb the ladder to go and get it. So I love his overall game. I think that if not for his height, you're talking about a first-round selection. But because he's 5'10", 5'11", teams were a little apprehensive to pull the trigger on him. You got a really good football player here in the second round. I really mean that, sincerely. I think you got a really good guy. The only thing I worry about with him is that he's over-aggressive at times. And not from the standpoint of gambling. He's over-aggressive in hitting people, which is probably going to cause this guy to get a couple of 15-yard penalties. I liken him to LaRon Landry. Just really aggressive and physical for no reason sometimes. I don't have a problem with it. I really don't. But the only time I have an issue with it is when it crosses that line. It blurs that line of inside the game and inside the rules and the framework of the league and getting a penalty. I don't deal well with 15-yard penalties that are unnecessary. And I can see DJ Swearinger getting a few of those in his time in the National Football League. But you can get him to scale back the hyper-aggressiveness when tackling ball carriers. He's the type of guy that it's an uncatchable ball, but he still mollywops you anyway. And those are the ones that get 15-yard penalties. That's the ones I can't get with those. Those are the ones that cost you on 3rd and 17. It's not a catchable pass. But he said, hey, I'm already here anyway. I ran 15 yards to get here. You're here, I'm might as well hit you anyway. So those are the penalties I can't get with. But If you could get past that with DJ Swearinger, you got yourself. And at first, this was a triple for me, but the more I talk about it, the more I watch the tape, it's a home run for me in the second round. DJ Swearinger, product out of South Carolina at the safety position. I absolutely love this pick. It's a home run, back-to-back jacks for the Houston Texans in the first 2 rounds. You can put it on the board, Texas. Wow. Texas really knocked it out of the park with their first 2 selections in getting DeAndre Hopkins and DJ Swearinger in the first 2 rounds. Let's take a look at the needs board. You get Hopkins in the first round. You take away a need at receiver. You get DJ Swearinger at the safety position. That meets a need as well. Texas meeting needs early on in this draft and meeting them very effectively. So we move on to the 3rd round for the Houston Texans. Pick 89, offensive tackle out of North Carolina, Brennan Williams. And look, this is a big, big man. 6'6", 320, huge specimen here. So right away, I'm thinking tackle. There's no other position for this guy at 6'6", 320. You could kick him inside, but that's a really big man. And I'd hate to waste that kind of girth and that kind of arm length and that kind of size inside a guard. So right away, we're talking about a tackle. All right, so then you ask yourself, left or right, or both. I don't think he's fast enough to play the left side. He's not quick enough. He's not explosive enough. He doesn't kick step fast enough to get out of his stance to keep the elite pass rushers of this league away from your quarterback. So, and really in this day and age in the National Football League, teams are getting wise to that. They're not just loading up their best pass rushers on the blind side of the quarterback. They're putting guys all over the place, right side, left side. So your left and right tackles have to be really good now. You can't just have a blue chipper on the left side and an okay guy on the right side. You got to have both sides of your quarterback protected now. But I think he's more than adequate enough to play the right side. And Dwayne Brown, while he's been steady for you at the right tackle position, you just re-signed him. So I think you think very highly of him. I think you can upgrade over Dwayne Brown. Not saying that he hasn't been good enough, but I think you can upgrade that position. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Brennan Williams didn't flat out win this job over time. Maybe not in 2013. Maybe he doesn't come in and take over right away. Don't expect him to. But I'm not saying that I expect this to be a long, drawn-out process. I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't be surprised if Brennan Williams won this job by 2014. Seriously, this guy is really good. And he's strong. He's athletic enough. At 6'6", this is always the problem with guys that are that big. At 6'6", hard for you to bend. That's first of all. Not everyone can just bend at the hips and at the knees at 6'6". And when you get to the second level, 6'6", 320 is hard to stop. Hard to stop and redirect that frame. You get a guy that all of a sudden is right here in your line of sight, and you go to block him and he gives you a quick, subtle move. Hard for you to stop 6'6", 320 from going straight and now have it go directly to your left at a drop of a hat. Hard to stop on a dime when you're 6'6", 320. So at the second level, not the greatest blocker. Not going to be someone that you can trust to block the man that's in front of you. But I think he's got good enough footwork to play the right side. I think he's strong enough to play left or right. I think he's got the length that you look for to play left or right. But I think when it's all said and done, his agility or the lack thereof is what's going to keep him away from the left side and make him more of a right tackle in this league. And I think he can excel at the right tackle position. I love this pick. I think he makes an excellent right tackle in this league. And I think if the Texans are smart with this guy, they'll groom him. They'll teach him the nuances of the right tackle position in this league. Get him ready to play. And maybe, depending on what happens, maybe injuries set your offensive line, or maybe he just flat out shows you that he's ready to take over at the right tackle position. Either way, I look for Brennan Williams either sometime in the 2013 season or going into the 2014 season to be your starter at the right tackle position. Love the pick. Offensive tackle out of North Carolina in the 3rd round at the 89th overall selection. Brennan Williams to me is a triple. So we look at another 3rd round selection that the Houston Texans hold. 95th overall selection. This is a compensatory pick. Defensive end out of LSU, Sam Montgomery. You got extreme value here. This guy has 2nd round talent right here. I actually expected him to go in the 2nd round when this whole process first started. No way Sam Montgomery is getting to the 3rd round. But then the combine came, and then the interviews came, and then Sam started talking and he didn't know how to shut up. And that's okay, that's fine. Because, look, at the end of the day, teams want you to be honest with them. And that's what Sam did. He honestly said what came to his mind. How he felt, he said it. They asked him a question, and he gave them a genuine, honest answer. Problem is, you're not supposed to do that all the time. You might not like someone. And that person may say, hey, do you like me? Let's just throw out a hypothetical. It's your boss. And you don't like your boss. And he says, hey, how do you feel about me? Do you not like me? In your head, you're thinking, you're a prick. I can't stand you. I hate working for you. I would love it if you just went away and hid somewhere in a corner and never came back. That's what you would love to tell this guy. But of course, he's your boss. You like your job. So you say, I absolutely love working for you. You're a great guy. I couldn't envision myself working for anyone else but you. That's not the answer you get out of Sam Montgomery. You get the former, not the latter. He's the guy that tells you, I don't like you. You're a jerk. You treat me like crap. And I really prefer if I never work for anyone like you again. That's Sam Montgomery for you. Sometimes you got to know what to say out of your mouth. And look, even though you might feel a certain way, you're not supposed to say that all the time. There's no filter here with Sam Montgomery. And for a lot of teams, his answers throughout the interview process was enough to get him not only pushed back in the draft. Some teams totally took him off of their board altogether. Like, this guy's a nutcase. I don't know if he has it all upstairs. I'm not willing to spend and invest in early round selection on a guy like that. So you got great value because of it. And to me, frankly, he hasn't done anything reckless off the field for me to think that maybe this guy doesn't get it. He just said some things that you probably would have preferred he kept to himself. But look, I care more about the product on the field than I do what's going on off it, as long as it's not something that's going to attract negative attention to my football team, which Sam Montgomery usually doesn't partake in. So he's a guy that works hard on the field. He's a high motor guy, 6'3", 260. He understands that I have to give it all I have on every single play, and I love that. So from that standpoint, I just want to talk about the player on the field. Forget about all that extracurricular activity off of it. Sam Montgomery, the football player, is a high motor guy that's going to stop at nothing to get to the quarterback. So once the ball is snapped, he's going at 5th gear every time. And if that tackle lets up for a second, Sam Montgomery is going to get to the quarterback. He closes quickly, so it doesn't take him long after he gets around that tackle. Takes him 2 or 3 steps, he's at the quarterback. And I think that that's going to serve him well at the next level. Because guys who have high motors stick around in this league for a long time. There are many talented guys that are much better than some of the players around the league, but they don't stick around for a long time because their motor runs hot and cold. And that's the fastest way to get out of the league. Have a hot and cold motor. You can be as talented as you want, but if that motor isn't running on high all the time, people can tell. Teams can tell. Other players around the league can tell. And you'll find yourself out of the league very quickly. Just ask Albert Haynesworth. When the motor runs hot and cold, you'll be out of the league. Doesn't matter how talented you are. You don't have to worry about that with Sam Montgomery. The motor is always running hot. So I love him from that standpoint. The only issues that I have with him, he's a tweener. For me, Texas drafted him to play in a 3-4 defensive scheme. But is he an outside linebacker? I'm not sure if he's explosive enough for that. He's a guy that doesn't watch the ball. He watches the tackle. So when the tackle goes, he goes. Well, you don't get a jump on the tackle like that. When the tackle goes, that means he's already out of his stance. Now you're going at the same time the tackle is, if not behind him. You need to be going off the snap of the ball. He doesn't do that. He's not watching the ball. He's watching the tackle. So I'm not sure if he's explosive enough to get to the quarterback from outside linebacker. I don't think he's big enough to play 5 technique at the defensive end position in the 3-4 defense. So he's a tweener for me. Look, I like the pick. Wade Phillips will find somewhere for this guy to play. Looking at his size, I think he's going to be an outside linebacker. This guy is stout against the run. You're looking for a guy to set the edge in the run game. Here's your man right here, Sam Montgomery. So I think he's going to be more of a run-stuffing outside linebacker with the ability to get to the quarterback. And because I think that he's more suited to play outside linebacker more so than the 5 technique in the 3-4 defense, I think Sam Montgomery is extreme value here in the 3rd round because, again, 2nd round type of talent selected in the 3rd round. Defensive end out of LSU, 3rd round selection, 95th overall selection. Sam Montgomery, to me, is a triple. And I want to go to the needs board quickly. Brennan Williams handles a need at the offensive line. And even though he's drafted as a defensive end, I think that Sam Montgomery, to me, is going to be a linebacker in the next level. And so I'll go ahead and give the Texans a mark there at the linebacker position because I think Sam Montgomery translates more so to the outside linebacker position than he does the defensive end in the 3-4 defense. I don't think he's a 5 technique type of guy because I don't think he's big enough. At 260, he'd have to put on at least 15 pounds to get to a respectable weight that can allow him to anchor and take on these big tackles in this league. So I'll take my chances as Sam Montgomery being an outside linebacker for the Houston Texans. So now we go on to the 4th round. Texans own the 124th overall selection, defensive end out of UConn, Trevardo Williams. This is an explosive athlete in every sense of the word. We're talking 6'1", 240, 4.5 40, explosion. Last 2 years at UConn, over 20 sacks. So production out of this world. When you look for a guy to translate from defensive end to an outside linebacker that can get to the quarterback, you're looking at a guy like Trevardo Williams. Tremendous value here in the 4th round in the form of Trevardo Williams. Reason why he's not a guy that was talked about more highly in this draft and was selected higher up in the draft is because, to me, he's one-dimensional. He's a guy that you just turn loose and say, hey, get the quarterback, man. Don't even worry about stopping the run. Go get the quarterback. At 240 pounds, I don't like his chances of stopping the run anyway. Okay? Here's a guy that you just turn him loose. You take off the collar. Go get him, Trevardo. Go get him. And just let him go rush the quarterback. Explosion. Sheer explosion is what you get from Trevardo Williams. Okay? I've already told you the measurables. I already told you the 6'1", the 240, the 4.5 40. But this guy was leaping. Explosive broad jump. Explosive vertical leap. Which tells you he's explosive. Explosive. That's Trevardo Williams. And he's going to get to the quarterback. I don't have any qualms about that whatsoever. And so, you lose a guy like Connor Barwin. I don't think Trevardo Williams replaces him because Connor Barwin wasn't a guy that was always going to get to the quarterback, but you knew Connor Barwin was going to play the run game extremely well. He was going to give you a little bit of both. That's not what Trevardo Williams is here to do. He's not here to stop the run. He's here to get to the quarterback. Now, I think that what you did in this draft, Sam Montgomery is your linebacker that's going to stop the run. Trevardo Williams is going to be your outside linebacker that's going to stop the quarterback from getting the football up. Look, in this day and age in the National Football League, you got to have guys that can get to the quarterback. Simply put, we're in a new day and age. It's a passing league now. Many teams can run the football, but 85% of the league is throwing the football all around the field. And if you're going to beat teams that throw the football, like you want to do with the Patriots, you want to beat the New England Patriots. That's what you should be looking at doing. Every move you make in the offseason should be to beat the New England Patriots because they're the team that's stopping you from getting where you want to go. A guy like Trevardo Williams going to help you do that because he's going to get to Tom Brady. I can't speak for anyone else in this draft. I can't speak for anyone that you have on your team other than J.J. Watt. Maybe Antonio Smith at times. But Trevardo Williams will get to the quarterback. Just turn him loose. Don't ask him to drop into pass coverage. Don't ask him to stop the run. On 3rd and 8, when you know they're passing the football, stick Trevardo Williams in the game. Watch him work. I absolutely love this pick. In the 4th round, 124th overall selection, defensive end out of UConn, is another triple for me in the form of Trevardo Williams. In this league, you got to have guys that can get to the quarterback. Trevardo Williams will provide that for you. It's a triple for me in the 4th round with Trevardo Williams. So now we go on to the 6th round. And the Texans absolutely love shopping in the 6th round. They got 4 6th-round selections. So they're not bashful about getting value in the 6th round. Let's see how they were able to do in the 6th round. Your first 6th-round selection, 176th overall selection. This is from the Tennessee Titans, offensive tackle out of San Jose State, David Quisenberry. Look, Quisenberry isn't a guy you want to start on your football team. Not saying that he can't start ever. I'm not saying that he's a guy that won't eventually have to start for you in a pinch. But he's not a guy that you draft to say, hey, we're drafting this guy to be our starting right tackle, which is evident by his 6th-round selection. And normally, you don't draft 6th-rounders with the intent and hope that they're going to start for you down the road. This is what you call strictly a rotational depth pick. You draft him, you coach him up, and he's a guy that can play left, right tackle, left, right guard. Do you want him playing left tackle? Probably not. But again, in a pinch, if you have to, he's a guy that can step in and do that for you. So he's one of those jack-of-all-trades guys. Someone that can play just about anywhere on the line with the exception of probably center. You need those swing tackles and guards on your football team. A guy that can fill in at 3 or 4 different positions on your offensive line. Enter David Quisenberry. That's what he's going to do. That's the void he's going to fill on your football team. One of your guards go down, put David Quisenberry in. Your right tackle goes down for 4 weeks. You need a replacement for those 4 weeks. High ankle sprain. Got Dwayne Brown. Brennan Williams isn't quite ready yet. David Quisenberry is. So, from that standpoint, it's a solid selection. He's a guy that I think is going to give you everything you're looking for at 6'4", 6'5", 320 pounds. He's a big guy, can anchor. Limited in his athletic ability, but it's enough for him to get the job done. At the Senior Bowl, because I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't watch a lot of San Jose State football, okay? Don't know what they were doing. So when I watched him at the Senior Bowl, look, everyone that they put against him, he blocked them, which was surprising to me because there were some athletes at the Senior Bowl, you know, your Ziggy Ansahs and guys like that, that were supposed to be able to dominate this guy. And he held his own. So from that standpoint, I know he can get it done at the next level. Consistently, can he do it? That's the question I have, which makes him a rotational depth guy. It's a double for me in the form of David Quisenberry, tackle out of San Jose State in the 6th round at pick 176. So I think you got good value here in the 6th round with a guy that's going to be able to give you some depth on your offensive line. So now we look at another 6th-round selection, your second, at pick 195, wide receiver out of Jacksonville State, Allen Bonner. I don't like this pick. I'll be frank with you. I'll be quick here. He's the smallest receiver at 5'11", 5'10". And look, if you're going to be small, I need you to be fast. I need you to do something extremely well. If you're not going to bring height to the party, I need you to do something well that other guys on my football team can't. Like, I'll give you an example. You have Trendon Holiday, or you had Trendon Holiday on your football team. And this is what I think this is. This is a mea culpa for you letting Trendon Holiday go. You saw what he was able to do for the Broncos, and you slapped yourself. So I think that you're trying to recoup here by getting a guy that can give you some returns team value. And I'm not sure if Alan Bonner is that guy. Because, again, at 5'10", 5'11", running a 4.5 40, I don't know if he's explosive enough to give you what you're looking for in the returns game. Now, look, if that's why you drafted him, strictly to be a returns guy, then maybe you'll get the value you're looking for in the 6th round out of Alan Bonner. But if you drafted him to be a receiver, I have a problem with this pick because there were other receivers on the board at 195 that could have gave you better value here at this pick than Alan Bonner is going to give you if you're looking for a guy to come in and be a receiver. So I'm not in love with this pick at all. This is my thing and my stance on receivers. If you're going to be slow, I need you to be tall. If you're not going to be tall, I need you to be fast. Alan Bonner is neither for me. Okay? He's not fast enough. He's not tall enough. So he's just okay at everything. He's not great. He doesn't excel at anything. He's just good and solid at everything. And that's not enough for me when there were other receivers on the board that could have gave you some height and a little bit of speed to boot. So not in love with this pick. To me, it's a single for the receiver out of Jacksonville State in the 6th round at 195, Alan Bonner. It's a single for me. I look at your next 6th round selection, 198, Chris Jones, defensive tackle out of Bowling Green. This pick is from the Atlanta Falcons. Have another issue with this pick. All right. And, of course, when you get to the back half of the draft, look, every player is going to have deficiencies. That's why they're here. And so Chris Jones, for me, I think he's more of a 4-3 defensive tackle, a 3-technique guy, more so than a run-stuffing, double-team eating nose tackle, which is probably why you drafted him, because he's not explosive enough to play defensive end. Yeah, he can stand up at the point of attack, but you could have got other guys to do that. You don't need Chris Jones to do that. You drafted him as a 300-pound nose tackle, which is the problem I had with your former defensive tackle, Sean Cody. Wasn't big enough. This guy isn't big enough. He's not big enough to give you what you're looking for at the nose tackle position. So, once again, you're doing it again. If, in fact, that's what you drafted him to be. To me, he's more of a 4-3 defensive tackle than a 3-4 nose tackle or a 3-4 defensive end. He's not athletic enough to play defensive end. He's not a guy that you can count on to hold up his end of the bargain out there in the run game. He's not getting to the quarterback. So I really don't know what the basis for this pick was. Again, if you're looking for depth along the defensive line at nose tackle, that's fine. But to me, he's not big enough. He's not good enough to anchor the middle of the defense. When I think nose tackle, I'm thinking 320 pounds or better. A guy that's just big, eating up space. And if he's athletic, great. That's added value. But if he's not, if he's willing to take on double teams, eat up space, free up linebackers so they can make plays, I'm all for it. That's what you're looking for from your nose tackle. This guy is not that. So, once again, have a problem with this. At 6'2", he's undersized, but he uses his undersized frame to get under guards and centers and drive them back into the quarterback. Problem is, he's not overly strong either. So, I'm not really feeling this pick. 6'2", 300 pounds, not going to cut it at the nose tackle position. I'm not feeling Chris Jones as a good fit in your 3-4 defensive scheme. Defensive tackle out of Bowling Green. 6th round selection at 198 is a single for me. I really wasn't that enamored with this pick. We go on to your last 6th round selection at 201. The Texans with about 3 picks and around 7 selections, so they were extremely busy at this point in the draft. So 6th round, 201st overall selection. It's a compensatory pick. Tight end out of UConn, Ryan Griffin. All right. Simply put, for me, Ryan Griffin is a solid tight end at 6'6", 260, big guy, more of a blocking tight end. At times, he was one of the best blocking players on the offensive line for the UConn Huskies. I mean, we're talking about a tight end, but he was blocking like a tackle at times. So he can block. But he's limited in what he can do for you as far as the pass catcher is concerned. I feel like he's a solid backup tight end in this league, but guess what? You already have one of those. All right? You have one. To me, he's a Garrett Graham clone. You didn't need another one of these. All right, if you were going to take a risk on a tight end this late in the draft, why not get an athletic guy? Someone that can stretch the field, someone that can be a threat in a 2 tight end set. Just someone that could put pressure on the defense. He's not doing it. Now, if you want to continue to run the football and you want to have another guy that can block really well, fine. Great selection. But you already have this guy. His name's Garrett Grant. Ryan Griffin is Garrett Graham 1.0. He's not even an upgrade. He's not 2.0 because I think Garrett Graham is actually a better catching tight end. He's better at catching the football and making things happen, more so than Ryan Griffin, and I think they both block really well. So you already have this guy on your roster. I didn't think you needed a duplicate. So again, tight end out of UConn, 6th round selection, 201st overall selection. Ryan Griffin is a single for me. Just think that this whole 6th round, or at least after Quisenberry, was a whole bunch of singles, whole bunch of guys that you could have done without on your roster. But we'll see. Maybe Alan Bonner pans out as a return guy for you. Maybe you get value there. Maybe Chris Jones shocks me and is actually really good at the nose tackle position. Maybe Ryan Griffin is what you're looking for at the tight end position. Maybe you want another guy that can be a solid blocker out there for Arian Foster. Who knows? I'm just not in love with the bottom part of this draft. But let's go to the needs board and clean up what the Texans were able to accomplish. You get another linebacker in Trevardo Williams. David Quisenberry is another offensive lineman. You look at Alan Bonner. He's another receiver. You also look at Chris Jones. That's a defensive lineman. And so that really cleans up the needs board. Texas did a great job of addressing needs. So you look at this draft as a whole, and Hopkins home run, Swearinger home run, Williams triple, Montgomery triple, Williams triple, Quisenberry double, Bonner single, Jones and Griffin both singles as well. I think it's a solid double for the Texans. This draft had triple written all over it until you got to the 6th round. That's when this thing took a sharp U-turn in the opposite direction. But look, what you did in the first 4 rounds, tremendous. And you guys didn't do anything in free agency, which I wasn't a big fan of. Because if you want to take that next step, you got to get guys on your football team that can help you get over the hump. The Patriots are in your way. So I guess Rick Smith felt like the draft was the best way to go. I'm fine with that. You did a great job of addressing some areas of need. You got a big-time receiver across from Andre Johnson now. You got a safety that I think you need to be playing right away. I don't care how you get him in the game. Get him in the game. You get a tackle that down the road, if not in 2013, can help you and I think can pay off huge dividends for you. Trevardo Williams might be the steal of the draft for you because he can do something that only one other person can do on your football team. Consistently get to the quarterback. Brooks Reed is nice. He's not Trevardo Williams, though. You got a guy that after J.J. Watt, you got another guy that teams are going to have to worry about when he's on the field. Whitney Merciless can get to the quarterback. So from that standpoint, I might have misspoke. You might actually have 2 guys that can consistently get to the quarterback. Because I was very impressed with Whitney Merciless last year. Add Trevardo Williams to the mix. Just think of this. Whitney Merciless on one side, Trevardo Williams on the other side, and J.J. Watt on the line trying to get to the quarterback on 3rd and 9. That could be a very compromising situation for offenses around this league. So I love that pick, Sam Montgomery. I like the value you got there. I want to see how you're going to use him. I have some questions about that. But again, when you get talented guys, just figure out a way to get them on the field. And so I'm pretty sure Wade Phillips is going to find a way to get Sam Montgomery on the field. So I love this top half of your draft. I thought you did some tremendous things here. And I think you really upgraded the talent on your football team. And now you're going to give yourself a chance to take that next step. I don't know if you're going to be able to do so or not. But a lot of these pieces are ones that can come in and help you right now, which is exactly what you need. The window of opportunity is closing for the Houston Texans. Andre Johnson not getting any younger. Arian Foster, every year that goes by and he puts more mileage on those tires and on those legs, you know that the clock is ticking. And Matt Schaub, not a spring chicken. So you need to expedite this process. This draft is going to help you do exactly that. Let's see if these guys can take what they did at college, have it translate to the National Football League, and help you win right away. It's a double for the Houston Texans. Very impressed with the top half of their draft. That's going to do it for them in the 2013 NFL Draft Wrap-Up.
Draft Zone.